The story begins with the protagonist waking up in complete darkness. Confused, he wonders where he is and whether it is still night, and he looks for a way to turn on the light. However, he finds nothing. Suddenly, a crack appears in the middle of everything. It opens and reveals a vast forest. Confused, the protagonist wonders why he is there and why he cannot move. At that moment, his statistics become visible, revealing that he is a dragon egg. A voice informs him that his status window has been opened, which allows him to see all his current statistics with numerical values to make them easier to understand. It adds that explanations of his statistics and items are provided by the Divine Voice skill, and that it can also notify him when his statistics change. The protagonist asks if this is a game, but the voice replies that it cannot provide explanations of that nature at level 1. He then asks who the voice is, but once again the voice says it cannot provide explanations of that nature. Annoyed by this response, the protagonist asks who it is and where he is, but the voice gives the same answer again. Losing patience, the protagonist shouts for it to stop saying that, but by accident he falls from the tree. Once on the ground, the voice notifies him that he has obtained the skill Fall Resistance and the title Clumsy. The protagonist feels offended by this, but he has no time to dwell on it because he begins rolling toward a lake. However, he barely manages to survive. When he looks at his reflection, he discovers that he is definitely an egg. Confused, he exclaims that it makes no sense and that he cannot understand what is happening. Once again, the system explains everything. He is a dragon egg, an F-rank monster, the offspring of a dragon, and if his shell breaks, he will die. Not only that, he is also imposing and has low intelligence due to an underdeveloped brain, so rolling is all he can do. The protagonist tries to defend himself, but the system continues speaking and tells him that although he can become a fearsome dragon with age, after all, it is common practice among adventurers to destroy any dragon egg they find. However, they consider it dangerous to approach if the mother dragon is nearby. This confuses the protagonist even more, but at that moment he begins rolling downhill. As he does, the system notifies him that his rolling skill has increased from level 1 to level 2. Immediately, the protagonist looks for the new function he gained from leveling up and discovers that he can now steer and turn. With this ability, he moves at full speed along the path, but by accident he falls from a great height. Once again, the system informs him that his fall resistance and clumsy have increased in level. Seeing that he now has only 3 health points left, he decides to take a break. Hours pass, and at night he mentions that resting seems effective. His HP, or health points, are restored. Without hesitation, he decides to move again. As he does, he reflects on how strange everything is. Although he is currently an egg, he will eventually have to hatch, which means he will become a dragon. However, he does not even know how to reach that point. He assumes it is similar to an RPG, where he needs to gain experience, level up, and then evolve or something like that. This also means he would have to fight enemies, which he does not want to do. After all, he is just an egg. At that moment, he sees something behind a tree. He looks closer and realizes it is an insect. He checks its statistics and discovers that it is a dark worm with the title Egg Eater. The creature notices the protagonist and, just as its title suggests, crawls toward him to try to eat him. This marks the beginning of a chase. The protagonist looks for a way to defeat it. He thinks about hitting it, but when he sees that it has more HP than him, he realizes that a direct collision would kill him. Spotting a cliff, he comes up with an idea. He leads the worm toward that location, and when the worm lunges to eat him, the protagonist dodges and, with a jump, pushes it into the abyss. Resting on top of the worm, he wonders if he has won, but at that moment the creature gets back up. The egg begs the worm to surrender, which it does, and it ends up falling dead. The protagonist wonders if the creature is truly dead, since it no longer moves. The game system notifies him that he has gained 12 experience points. In addition, the title Walking Egg grants him another 12 bonus points. The protagonist realizes that this truly functions like a game, and the system announces that he has leveled up from level 1 to level 5, reaching the maximum level required to evolve. Before evolving, the system shows him the possible growth paths, baby dragon and little dragon. Since he does not know which one to choose, the system explains the little dragon first. It is a small type of dragon, but still larger than a bear, and it possesses fire breath. The baby dragon, on the other hand, has very tender flesh and is quite weak. It has short claws and fangs, but it holds great potential with many possible evolutions, although most of them end up being hunted by adventurers or monsters. The baby dragon option makes the protagonist feel discouraged, and he initially prefers the little dragon because it seems more balanced. At that moment, he feels hands and hears a voice telling him to become stronger, saying that only one path lies before him, the path to the summit, and that great expectations are placed on him. The protagonist wonders if this is a divine voice. The system then announces that the divine voice has increased from level 1 to level 2. He assumes the voice appeared because he mentioned the balanced little dragon. Keeping in mind that only one path leads to the summit, he begins to think that the baby dragon has greater potential, since it can evolve into many kinds of dragons, unlike the little dragon, which has fewer options and could eventually reach a dead end. After thinking it through, he confidently chooses the baby dragon. His shell begins to crack and legs and a tail emerge. The system informs him that thanks to his title, Son of the Dragon King I, resistances below level 5 are strengthened. He also gains the skills Dragon Scales, Baby Breath, Whistle, and Bite, transforming into a Digimon-like creature. His statistics suddenly increase, but his health points and magic power are still not at their maximum. This means that even after evolving, he still needs to rest. Before resting, he intends to thank the caterpillar, but suddenly he feels hungry, and for some reason the caterpillar looks appetizing. The protagonist realizes this is due to his dragon instincts, and his body urges him to eat it in order to heal and fight. Once again, the divine voice tells him to become strong, and with no other choice, he eats the caterpillar, roaring in disgust at its awful taste. The next day, the dragon wakes up and looks at his reflection in the lake. Feeling calmer, he understands that he is reincarnated into another world as a dragon hatchling. He also realizes that the world functions like an RPG, where he can gain experience, level up, and evolve. However, for some reason he cannot remember who he was in his previous life. He knows that he was once human, but he cannot remember what kind of person he was, what he did, or even whether he was a man or a woman. Behind him, he hears more insects like the ones from the previous day, and he begins hunting them. By doing so, he gains more experience points and goes from level 1 to level 3. The dragon then decides to test his baby breath, blowing flames and eating the insects, which allows him to advance from level 5 to level 7. After repeatedly striking his enemies, he obtains the title Brawler and the skill Dragon Fist. With a single punch, he blows one enemy apart, leveling up from 14 to 15. After finishing the fight, the dragon states that he will soon reach the legendary summit. However, hunger sets in, and he can only eat the same thing as before. Just thinking about it makes him feel nauseous until he notices some mushrooms. Out of curiosity, he tastes them, once again letting out a roar. After a while, he is seen drinking water. As it turns out, the mushrooms were poisonous and made him throw everything up. Having learned his lesson, he hears the system announce that he has obtained the skill Poison Resistance, and that Clumsy has also leveled up. After this, he heads deeper into the forest to look for food that is not insects. There, he spots a gray wolf. After checking its statistics and confirming they are lower than his own, he decides to hunt it. He first uses Dragon Breath and then finishes it off with Dragon Fist. The wolf is shown fully cooked. The protagonist approaches and notices that the beast gives off a barbecue-like smell. Excited by this, he decides to cook it a little more. In this way, he obtains roasted meat. He tastes it and confirms that it is delicious. In the afternoon, he hunts another wolf and levels up again. While cooking it, he mentions that it seems he can evolve once more at level 27-5, with only 5 levels remaining. Just as he thinks he is finally adapting to his life as a dragon, he hears some distorted voices in the distance. The little dragon recognizes them as human voices, so he excitedly goes to investigate. From behind a tree, he discovers that they are adventurers. Feeling excited, he thinks about introducing himself, but then hesitates after remembering that he is a dragon. Still, he recalls that he looks adorable, so he believes they will not harm him. First, he checks their statistics and realizes that they are not stronger than him, although their numerical values are still considerable. After a brief internal struggle, he finally decides to introduce himself. He comes out from a bush, stating that he is a good, small dragon. He starts dancing while asking what they think of him and whether they feel like hugging him. The leader of the group tells the woman to step back, because to him the protagonist appears to be an evil dragon. He draws his sword and uses a skill that causes a wound to the dragon's chest. The protagonist falls to the ground in pain. At that moment, the mage casts a spell that paralyzes him. The dragon feels his senses fading away. The system then notifies him that he has obtained the skill Magic Resistance. The protagonist tries to escape, but the spell prevents him from moving. He wonders whether they see him as an enemy or perhaps as food. Calling himself foolish, he questions how he ever convinced himself that a dragon could befriend humans, thinking about everything he went through to hatch from the egg and evolve. He declares that it is unfair and that he does not want to die. Using his last strength, and in tears, he begs them to help him. At that moment, the woman steps in front of him and asks the adventurer to wait. The dragon sees that she is trying to protect him, and when he closes his eyes, he feels a warm hand. He realizes that the girl is using her magic to heal him. Although he cannot hear her very clearly, he understands that she asks if he is all right. He does not know why she is helping a dragon, but he is grateful to her. The other adventurers do not understand her actions and simply continue on their way. The dragon checks the girl's statistics and sees that her name is Miriam Milania, an Earth human. Her health points are fine, but after healing him, she has very little magic power left, and yet she still does it to save him. Little by little, the dragon feels the paralysis fading. He thinks that Miriam might leave once she sees that he is fine, but for now, he decides to stay still a little longer. Because of this, the system notifies him that he has obtained the title Liar. Suddenly, when Miriam speaks to him, he gains the skill Grecian language. The dragon understands that the more this skill levels up, the better he will be able to understand her, and he eagerly hopes to master it soon. However, he then hears a roar and the screams of people. The entire atmosphere turns red and hostile. The dragon knows this is bad because it is clearly a very strong enemy, and the other humans have most likely already died. Miriam is about to go to her companions, but the dragon stops her, telling her not to go because she will not be able to do anything. He also points out that she has no magic power left and will not be able to use her healing spell on them. Miriam knows this very well, but she goes anyway. The dragon tries to follow her, but he is still affected by paralysis. He strikes his leg, trying to make it move, knowing that Miriam cannot defeat whatever has arrived. However, if the dragon were to join the adventurers, he might be able to do something. He is then seen running at full speed to find Miriam, but instead he encounters a rock dragon, rank C, with 197 health points, while he himself has only 38 out of 72 remaining. Even so, he continues searching for Miriam and sees her beneath the rock dragon. Unfortunately, he makes too much noise and is noticed by the creature. The rock dragon turns toward him and slowly approaches while letting out a roar. The protagonist dragon falls to the ground, looking up at it, unable to do anything against it.